NewsLink.org. First, our top stories. 2026 Global Terrorism Index ranks Nigeria among world's most terror-impacted countries.
When your village head is kidnapped in a community, what is left? It's as if you caught the head in the community. So, the community will be in fear. There will be tension.
Ghanaian President Mahama heads to U.S. for UN Reparatory Justice Forum. Rising tensions in southern Senegal amid army operations as civilians seek refuge in the Gambia.
This presents a serious challenge for Senegal, and addressing it will require more than repression, especially as the situation tends to repeat itself each year.
And Benin's Electoral Commission publishes official list of diaspora polling stations ahead of April 12 presidential election. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
On the news, this is a More Edit.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this afternoon. We'll begin with the 2026 Global Terrorism Index, which ranked Nigeria among the most terror-impacted countries globally, raising fresh concerns about the country's security situation. The report indicates that Nigeria recorded the largest increase in terrorism-related deaths worldwide. Fatalities rose sharply over the past year, highlighting the urgent need for new approaches to tackling insecurity. WDL's Abuja correspondent Yechin Nusasichu reports.
Findings show that the surge in attacks has been largely driven by extremist groups, including Boko Haram and ISWAP, which account for the majority of terrorism-related deaths in the country. The report also highlights that Nigeria has experienced a steady rise in terrorism-related deaths since 2022, recording 237 more fatalities in 2025 than in 2024. Sub-Saharan Africa remains the global epicenter of terrorism, with several countries in the region dominating the index. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Community Engagement for the North Central, Abiodun Esiet, identifies some of the driving factors to insecurity within communities.
When your village head is kidnapped in a community, what is left? It's as if you caught the head in the community. So, the community will be in fear. There will be tension. Some of the community leaders said a place will be attacked, their neighbors, their communities will be attacked, but the miners are not touched. Who are these miners?
She also stresses the need to adopt non-kinetic strategies, including community engagement and preventive measures, to effectively address the root causes of insecurity.
The major cause of the conflict within the North Central can be solved in a non-kinetic way. Then, some maybe 50% kinetic, 50% non-kinetic.
The report underscores the need for a comprehensive approach combining security operations within community-based interventions to effectively combat terrorism and improve safety across the country. For WADR, Yechin Nusasichu in Abuja.
Meanwhile, in Mali, the army neutralized around 40 terrorists during a large-scale offensive operation in the Dakar region west of the country. About 12 hostages were rescued and a significant quantity of weapons was seized. Abdullah Hassan has more details in this report.
The operation dubbed Dogokoloko was conducted from March 14 to 21 in the areas of Yilimani and Segali in the Dakar region. According to a statement from the General Staff of the Armed Forces, ground units located and destroyed 2 terrorist bases in Medina Kai. The military says the offensive resulted in the neutralization of about 40 fighters, including a senior terrorist commander whose identity remains unknown. A large quantity of weapons and thousands of liters of fuel were also seized. In addition, 12 hostages were freed during the operation. Karim Traore, commander of Sector 7, welcomed the success and called for greater collaboration with local populations. Since the beginning of these operations, the population has remained supportive. Wherever our units have passed, they have been warmly welcomed. We are therefore calling on the population for whom we are here. They represent the center of gravity of the armed forces and are the key source of strength from which we draw our freedom of action and our will to fight. If the population continues to stand with us, we are confident that all our operations will be carried out successfully. The operation comes as the armed forces intensify pressure on terrorist groups. Over the weekend, Malian air assets targeted a terrorist group northwest of the city of Kidal. According to the Malian army, about 10 assailants were neutralized.
Our Bamako correspondent Aliu Cham's report there and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Elsewhere in Guinea, the Office of the Public Prosecutor at the Court of Appeal in Conakry announces the arrest and indictment of several individuals on terrorism-related charges. These include complicity in terrorism, criminal conspiracy linked to a terrorist enterprise, and the financing of terrorism. In a statement issued during the weekend, Prosecutor General Fallou Doumbouya said the arrest formed part of the government's criminal policy aimed at combating terrorism and violent extremism in the country. Augustine Coley tells us more in this report.
According to the Prosecutor General, the arrests were carried out in collaboration with defense and security services as part of ongoing efforts to tackle terrorism and violent extremism. A statement from the Conakry Prosecutor's Office indicates that investigations led to the dismantling of a group of 11 individuals arrested in April 2025 in Segeri, Majana, and Kankan. The group includes 7 Malayans, 2 Nigerians, 1 Burkinabe, and 1 Guinean national. The statement also notes that another Malayan, identified as Fotige Dao, was arrested in Kankan by the National Gendarmerie for his alleged links to a sleeper cell connected to the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, JNIM. Investigations further revealed links between the suspects and the group, as well as the coexistence of online radicalization networks involving several individuals, including Guineans. During questioning, Fotige Dao reportedly admitted to participating in the hostage for ransom operation contributing to the financing of terrorist activities. Investigators also identified several WhatsApp groups affiliated with the network, comprising 518 members, including 38 Guineans. The suspects have since been referred to the Kalom Court of First Instance, which has jurisdiction over terrorism cases, where they have been formally charged and placed in custody for complicity in terrorism, criminal conspiracy, and financing of terrorism. The Prosecutor General has assured the public of the authorities' commitment and urged the citizens to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity.
A report from Conakry there by our correspondent General Afa Ibrahim Baude and voiced by Augustine Coley.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And back here in Senegal's southern region along the border with the Gambia is once again experiencing heightened tensions. For several weeks, the Senegalese army has been carrying out a large-scale operation to destroy cannabis fields, but the offensive has since escalated into clashes. Fighting between the military and armed individuals resulted in several casualties, forcing civilians to flee toward neighboring Gambia. Civil society groups are raising concerns in response to the worsening situation. The West African Movement Against Small Arms, MALO, is calling for a shift in strategy. Sheikh Tijan Tisse is a coordinator of the movement.
For a long time, we have been in Casamance supporting the peace process, and the relative calm experienced in recent years has been disrupted by recent events. However, it is important to distinguish between the resurgence of violence linked to the armed conflict and the growing criminal economy in the area, which the Senegalese state is determined to combat. This criminal economy is widespread and affects local populations, many of whom are unemployed. As a result, cannabis cultivation and timber trafficking have become common in parts of the Benona department, largely due to its proximity to the Gambian border. The situation is further complicated by the fact that the same communities live in both sides of the border, making collaboration and complicity easier. This presents a serious challenge for Senegal, and addressing it will require more than repression, especially as the situation tends to repeat itself each year. A shift in strategy is needed, one that supports people to live decently under the risks of relying on criminal economy and fully exercise their rights. Opening up the area to improve mobility could also serve as a deterrent. These efforts must be backed by a strong public awareness and sensitization programs.
Sheikh Tijan Tisse is the coordinator of the West African Movement Against Small Arms, Malawi. Now, to the growing scourge of illegal mining in parts of the sub-region in Liberia, prominent human rights lawyer Taiwan Gongolo is demanding an immediate and thorough investigation into allegations of illegal mining operations along the Guinea-Liberia border. He warns that these actions have not only violated international law but also dangerously strain relations between the two nations, potentially undermining Liberia's stability. Taiwan Gongolo emphasizes the gravity of the situation, highlighting the potential for conflict and the need to hold those responsible accountable. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Iram Parker reports.
The Liberian human rights lawyer accused unnamed individuals within the government of mining diamonds in the shared waterways without the consent of Guinea, a clear violation of international law. Tiawan Gongolo went further, warning President Joseph Boakai that a failure to act decisively would imply complicity and trigger a campaign for his impeachment.
Anybody who is found to have violated this international law that brought Guinea and Liberia nearly to war to be held accountable. If it is a minister in his government, that minister should be dismissed. If it is someone in the other branch of government, that person should be prosecuted. It was an act of treason, something that will undermine the sovereignty of Liberia. If President Boakai does not do it, then I will launch a campaign for his impeachment.
The presence of Guinean soldiers on Liberian territory has reportedly caused widespread fear and displacement among residents. Some others are appealing to the government for urgent intervention.
Yeah, among all with arms, it is raised for all the community members surrounding the border. We are not to encourage those guys, they are surrounded all over. We will not agree to go under Guinea authority. We are not Guineans, we are Liberians. As for my community, when the people take my land, I will take my family, I go to the president area, settle there with my family because I have no area to go again.
The Liberian government has stated its intention to address the issue through diplomatic channels. However, reports indicate that Guinean armed forces have maintained a presence on the Liberian side of the border since a meeting of African leaders in the Guinean capital, raising concerns about the effectiveness of diplomatic efforts. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama is on an official visit to the United States. While in the U.S., Mahama will lead Ghana's delegation to a high-level United Nations session on reparatory justice. The state visit to New York and Pennsylvania focuses on addressing historical injustices linked to the transatlantic slave trade and honoring its victims as calls for reparations gain renewed global attention. For more of this development, let's join Christopher Ticho.
The high-level event themed reparatory justice for the trafficking of enslaved Africans and the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans is expected to assemble global leaders and dignitaries to deliberate on one of the gravest injustices in human history. According to presidential spokesperson Phyllis Kwatio-Fosu, the gathering presents a critical opportunity for the international community to confront the legacy of slavery and chart a path towards redress. On Wednesday, President Mahama will address the United Nations General Assembly as part of activities marking the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. He is expected to present Ghana's position, now adopted by the African Union, calling for the formal recognition of the transatlantic slave trade and racialized chattel enslavement as the gravest crime against humanity. The president's itinerary also includes a wreath-laying ceremony at the African Burial Ground National Monument in New York in honor of enslaved Africans, underscoring Ghana's commitment to remembrance and justice. Beyond the United Nations engagement, President Mahama will travel to Pennsylvania, where he is scheduled to deliver a keynote address at Lincoln University and engage with the Ghanaian communities at Temple University. Officials say the visit is expected to strengthen ties with the African diaspora while reinforcing Ghana's leadership role in the global reparatory justice agenda.
Christopher Ticho filed a report. Still in Ghana, and Accra Circuit Court has sentenced 106 foreign nationals to prison for illegal entry in a case highlighting stricter enforcement of immigration laws across the country. 55 of the convicted persons were handed to an 8-day prison terms, while 51 others received 4-week sentences. All pleaded guilty and will be deported to their home countries after serving their jail terms. Nadi Tete has the rest of the story.
The case dates back to October 2025 when the group first appeared before the court. They formally admitted guilt on March 12, 2026 after months of legal proceedings. Investigations began earlier that month after intelligence reports indicated that more than 100 foreign nationals had gathered under suspicious circumstances at Kuntunse satellite on the outskirts of Accra. Police later found them living in a house in the area. Authorities say the group, believed to be nationals of neighboring francophone countries, had entered Ghana between January and October 2025 without reporting to immigration officials or presenting valid travel documents. Further checks revealed none had permits to live or work in the country. Officials say the sentences and subsequent deportations reflect Ghana's resolve to enforce its immigration laws and strengthen national security. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. 2026 Global Terrorism Index ranks Nigeria among world's most terror-impacted countries. Ghanaian President Mahama heads to U.S. for UN Reparatory Justice Forum. Rising tensions in southern Senegal amid army operations as civilians seek refuge in the Gambia. Still ahead in the news, Benin's Electoral Commission publishes official list of diaspora polling stations ahead of April 12 presidential election. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org and for the live streamings on YouTube and Facebook. In Benin, the National Autonomous Electoral Commission has published the official list of polling stations in the diaspora for the April 12, 2026 presidential election. According to SENA, the goal is to enable Beninese citizens living abroad to fully participate in the election. In Africa, several capital cities and major urban centers host polling stations. In Senegal, Dakar has 3 polling stations. In Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan has one of the largest polling stations with 22. Nigeria is also among the best-equipped countries with centers open in Abuja, Lagos, and Ibadan. Polling stations are also located in Burkina Faso, Congo, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea, reflecting relatively broad regional coverage. In Europe, France remains a primary voting hub for the Beninese diaspora. In Paris, 20 polling stations have been set up to accommodate over 11,000 registered voters. In the Americas, the United States and Canada are involved. 2 polling stations are open in Washington, D.C., 1 in New York, while Montreal has 2 stations for registered Canadian voters. Now to Lomé, Togolese capital, soon hosts Africa cotton producers. The meeting is part of the 18th review session of the Regional Cotton Production Program in Africa. It will focus on an in-depth analysis of the cotton sector across the continent. Sankle Janko reports.
The meeting will take place from April 14 to 17 and will bring together key players in the cotton value chain, including representatives of cotton companies, interprofessional bodies, research institutes, and cotton producers organizations from several African countries. Participants will from 8 cotton-producing countries in West and Central Africa: Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, Senegal, Chad, and Togo. The discussion will focus on assessing production performance, identifying challenges, and identifying ways to improve the productivity and competitiveness of African cotton. The exchanges will also cover integrated cotton production management approaches, including pest control, soil fertility, and the development of new varieties adapted to climate variability. At the end of the mid-April meeting, stakeholders are expected to lay the groundwork for sustainable improvements in cotton production, particularly in countries where producers are seeking solutions to revive the sector.
Sankle Janko filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We head to Abuja as we join the HNSATU for the newspaper review.
Greetings. We begin with Vanguard newspaper. State police. Governors disagree as insecurity worsens nationwide. And Nigerians in diaspora now order clothes from home. They say this is due to the high cost of living abroad, including the high cost of clothing and accessories. Moving over to Guardian, Vice President Kashim Shettima debriefs President Tinubu on Maiduguri security situation. Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu denies reports he ordered dissolution of multiple tactical units operating across state commands nationwide. Nigeria Labour Congress calls on federal government to merge petroleum and power ministries into single and unified Ministry of Energy. And lastly, in Punch, ahead of 2027 general elections, People's Democratic Party governors meet with national leader of Nigeria Democratic Congress, Senator Seriake Dixon, and former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso as reconciliation efforts in PDP fails. In entertainment, veteran actor Papa Ajasko rebrands as Bondu Alaska. And in sports, Victor Osimhen to undergo further medical examinations today to determine whether surgery will be required on arm injury. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, HNO.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview focuses on the 2026 Global Terrorism Index, which ranked Nigeria among the most terror-impacted countries globally, raising fresh concerns about the country's security situation. Our guest is Dr. Maja Pitax, a Nigerian security expert who provides an analysis of this report.
It's not a very pleasant report. We've taken a leap and moved forward for the wrong reason. But obviously, it's not far from the truth because the incidences of terror within the confines of the nation of Nigeria is on the increase. In the northeast, the Boko Haram incidents, there's a resurgence, explosions, bombings, and all of that. And then apart from that, in the northwest and the north central, a lot of incidences of attacks, abductions, kidnappings, and bombings. So there are a lot of things around terrorism that is happening. So it's not surprising that at this point in time, we're having a leap in the Global Terrorism Index.
What key factors do you believe are driving this surge?
So many things. One, when there is so much confrontation and there is counter-terrorism within a state, nobody wants to throw in the towel. So the violent extremist groups and the terror groups themselves will want to show that, yes, we're still here, we're still in charge, we're still in control. And what they want is to create the fear factor and have a siege mentality so that people are going to be afraid. And when the community are afraid, when the nation is afraid, it is easier for them to perpetrate their acts, so that's what they try to do. If you don't do that, if you don't show that you're still relevant, if you don't show that you still have the capacity and the capability to really terrorize a community, then whatever it is you're doing, is just going to be laughed at. So it's just a matter of trying to reestablish your presence, and that happens everywhere. So it's very easy for you to realize when there are massive attacks, there is going to be massive reprisal. And that is what we're experiencing at this point in time.
Groups like Boko Haram and OSIWA are identified as major contributors to the rise in violence. How do you think their strategies or capabilities have evolved in recent years?
They're looking for soft targets, and that's why you could look at the explosions that happened days back. There are 3 massive explosions that went off in the night. From what we're hearing, there were 5 people, but 2 didn't detonate. So the 2 might still be hanging around somewhere. It's just that, when acts of terror are supposed to be carried out, it's not written on their heads. So they just find a way of going into the civil society, and you never can be able to tell. And because the way you're planning to counter, that's how they're planning to perpetrate their acts. So everybody has his own inclinations and his plans. And nobody has monopoly of violence, nobody has monopoly of insurgency, nobody has monopoly of knowledge, nobody has monopoly of strategy. So even terror groups, they strategize. And that's part of what they've been doing. So even when they lie low, what do they try to do? They try to infiltrate, they try to penetrate.
The United States has pledged to support Nigeria's fight against insecurity through intelligence support. And President Tinubu recently visited the United Kingdom, where discussions were also held on fighting insecurity, including France, which also recently signed a security agreement with Nigeria. How do you think these agreements with big hands like the United States, the UK, and France will play out in terms of addressing the rising insecurity in Nigeria?
And you see, it's not agreement that matters. It's having boots on the ground and doing the job. So if there is political will and the commitment to ensure that these agreements are not just emphasized on the grounds of benefit, then I think we are getting to where we will see results. So we just hope, we're very hopeful that we're getting towards the end of it, because the joint military operations that we're looking at strategies of collaboration with nations of the West that have more war power will help. And we're very hopeful that will bring this thing to an end.
Dr. Maji Pretex is a Nigerian security expert. And in sport news, 2 assistant coaches of the Nigeria Football Federation team, Nigeria football team, Daniel Ogumodede and Fidelis Ilechuku, are due in Turkey this Monday as preparations continue for friendly matches against Iran national football team and the Jordan national football team. Both assistants have kept their roles for now, yet there are growing questions within the Nigeria Football Federation about the strength and experience of the coaching crew. In particular, concerns centered on whether the current assistants can step up if the need arises. A meeting between the Federation's Technical Committee and Shell is expected in the coming weeks to review the structure. And Senegal began their preparation for the World Cup with friendly matches against Peru and neighbors the Gambia, and have stuck with the majority of the squad that competed at the Africa Cup of Nations finals in Morocco at the turn of the year. Coach Buna Papacho has handed a first call-up, however, to Nobel Mendy from Spanish club Rayo Valenciano and Mamadou Jacon, who plays at Belgium's Club Brugge. Bamba Dieng is also back in the squad for the first time in 2 years. Fullback Ile Kamara of Belgian club Anderlecht had to pull out of the Cup of Nations through injury, and although he is fit again and has not been included in this, but striker Hassan Diao from Como is in. Sheikh Salabi is the only player from the squad in Morocco who was dropped. He recently left Metz to join Vancouver Whitecaps in Major League Soccer. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Seg and Maudaju for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. Coming up next at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of a health program, Well Buddy. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Radio Bath FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.